Got to turn it on.
Now you're on.
Welcome everyone to the convening of the Reno County Commission special meeting today. The topics will have to do with sales tax for Reno County that I'm sure everyone's heard about already. And so I think I'll just turn it over. And Randy, do you want to?
You want to do the Pledge of Allegiance, or you just want to go straight to?
Yeah, let's do a Pledge of Allegiance this time.
Somebody better say a prayer. We're going to need.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, Commissioners, the item on the agenda today is the sales tax discussion. This is not to pass a resolution to set a sales tax or to ask the citizens for a sales tax, but because of deadlines with the Kansas legislature and Kansas statutes, Reno County does not have the authority without the Kansas legislature consenting to additional authority to have another sales tax. So the deadline to have a member of our local legislation ask the registry at the state to draft a bill is next Monday. So that's why you're having a special session to see if there's consensus, interest, or a vote to at least ask the legislature to allow Reno County to ask its citizens about a sales tax. So this is really kind of a first step, and in the packet you will see that there is a list of possible question or areas. These are the options for the request for the legislature. The first one is for a sales tax that would have a ad valorem tax reduction and capital outlay. The second one is for economic development or public infrastructure. The third one is if you would have in the statute that the county could submit a question to the voters about a sales tax for ad valorem reduction, which is property tax reduction, economic development, and infrastructure. Those three were listed together because those were the top three items on the sales tax survey. And as a reminder, the sales tax survey that were registered voters had, I think, close to 70% support for a half-cent sales tax. Even the public survey that was online had more than 50% support for a half-cent sales tax. The possible legislation, the wording says that may submit at a rate of either 0.25, 0.5, 0.75, or 1%. And that's, again, not stating what you guys would vote on. That's just to have the authority for the commission at a later date this year to make a decision of what percent you would want. And then, again, the purpose of the sales tax has to be listed. If you chose one, a resolution later that would be adopted by the county commission or presented would list more details of what the sales tax would be and that exact percentage. And then you would have to choose a date to have the election, whether it's August this year. The only options are August this year, November this year, or in 2027, you could do a special one in March or August and November. But the legislation would need to give approval this year for anything that would be done this year or even up to March of next year. So that's kind of why we're having this meeting. Last week you met during a study session and went over the survey and knew that was that first look, but then this was to come back and see if you wanted to ask the legislature to authorize the county commission to ask its voters of whether or not they support any tax.
I just might mention also that while you only see three of us up here, Commissioner Vincent is on the telephone. And so he will have opportunities to. So
So this is now for your discussion, any questions or what you guys are wanting to do to move forward. If you don't approve any of them and say not this year, again, it would be next year's the 2027 legislature to where you would ask again if there's any request for a sales tax, if there's any interest.
Does any of you other commissioners have any comments with regarding to the information we were given through the survey? Because I thought it was fairly good and easy, and it gave us some direction with regards to what the population, the people of our county, would look at as being favorable and the direction that they want it used for.
Yeah, I would. I have talked to several people about that. No one got the survey or knew of anybody that was given the survey, and of course, none of them did it online. So I think we're meeting. I think we're going to meet a little resistance on this. I guess on the cautious side, if we want to raise sales tax, we better. My opinion is we better ask for a smaller amount, for the small amount, instead of going large. It's kind of what I'm getting.
Any others?
Just so I understand, we're not passing anything today, but on the other hand, I, like Mr. Vincent, had a lot of people tell me that they weren't aware of this going on, and of course, it was publicized, but that's pretty common. The general public doesn't pay attention, and so there's a couple things that I maybe weren't addressed, but I want to get it clear in my head before we do any voting on anything. And that would be, if we vote on one of these options, to give the people the opportunity to vote, and that may not happen. The legislature may not allow it. But should it get to that point, it's not clear to me that we're not just moving the tax from one place to another. I don't know that we can get enough outside taxation to make up the difference for the people who live here. Are we just moving where they pay their tax? And I'm not sure that it'll lower their property tax enough to the extra tax we get in from outside entities that'll work out in favor of our taxpayers. So that's a question that it isn't clear, but the other thing in my mind is it could very easily become a tax increase, and I'll just see how the vote comes out here, and we'll go from there.
I think one thing that we've talked about some is the fact that we have certain areas of our budget that are financed by ad valorem taxes, and that will be taken off of ad valorem taxes, such as some of that economic development funds that we collect each year. And Randy, jump in here anytime, but that revenue could be replaced by the sales tax. So yes, it is moving, but it's also taking away from the ad valorem real estate tax.
And Commissioner, for clarification, so as an option, if you look at the splitting it by property tax reduction, economic development, and infrastructure, if the commission say put it to the voters a third, the property tax reduction would be a little over $1 million each year, which is between 1 and 1.5 mils. If you look at it that way, the economic development, we budget about $400,000 each year. So that would be another 400,000 of that would be removed. That's in the general fund that's paid with property tax and instead a sales tax. So that's more savings on the property tax levy. And then if infrastructure, including roads or bridges, that's the road and bridge fund is also property tax levy. Either you spend more on roads and bridges or you offset what's being paid for with property taxes with some sales tax. So that's what Commissioner Hurst is talking about, of this kind of indirect impact on the property tax, but it's hard to put a specific number to that because it depends on what your decision is. If it's approved, something's approved today, if it's approved by the state of Kansas, and then the voters. So that's a long ways down the road, but it could have more than just the ad valorem tax reduction that would be a part of this. There's probably more property taxes that would be impacted and go down because of the sales tax. But that's up to you guys in the future.
And everyone might as well know this, that as inflation occurs 5%, as insurance goes 10 and 12%, especially liability insurance, is that it might be less of a reduction in ad valorem taxes if a sales tax would be approved. But I think everyone needs to realize that in future years, you may not see the same amount of reduction as normal, but that's just the facts of life, and I think everybody needs to understand that the budgeting process takes that into effect.
Well, not everybody in Reno County is a property owner that pays property taxes, but so it would affect anybody that goes to a store, retail outlet that is paying that sales tax
From out of county,
from out of county.
state.
Yeah, anybody that comes into the county, hopefully the tourism and some of those things bring people in, but also we're hoping to get more industry in the community and things like that. So in a way, it kind of spreads the burden from just a few property tax owners to the whole community and people that are visiting our community. So in that way, it is enlightening a little bit because it would help hopefully with the property tax. Like I said, though, if the economy doesn't do good and we have more inflation, then you're right, the tax on our property probably wouldn't go down as much. So,
And Commissioners, another thing on here that we were looking at, but there's not a statute that allows us to exempt food, but that was talked about between Patrick and I, possibly mentioning to the legislature also that if Reno County had the option of putting it to the voters, that we would also have a chance to exempt food that's sold at grocery stores so that it would lessen the amount of sales tax, but it would have, I guess, a less impact also on some of the people paying the sales tax when it's just going to the grocery stores. So we would recommend looking at that option too, but there's no state law that allows us to do that. But
You want to move that up so
It's-
people can see that?
But that's
That's
if the
something
state changes and
if-
lets us do that, it would be an option that we would like to have that option in the legislation if you approve something that you could decide on later. But
well, the other thing is, even if we ask the state if we can do this and they approve of it, doesn't mean we have to go ahead and
Right.
put it on the ballot, a sales tax of any kind.
correct.
So we're just basically studying it and talking about it and hopefully getting input. And then if we send it in, to do this, it still doesn't guarantee that we're doing a sales tax.
Right. And on the opposite side, if you do not move forward, then it's
we're done.
dead issue until at least next year. If you want to even, you or the commission at that time want to bring it up again, and that's up to you guys.
Yeah.
Well, I would kind of think that there's going to be a couple things with this. If we do reduce the food sales tax, we're going to lose revenue that we're used to having. Two, if we raise the tax, some higher priced items like flooring, furniture, so forth, a lot of people probably go to Wichita to be paying the higher tax. I mean, that's something that we ought to consider.
And Wichita is talking about additional sales tax, city of Wichita.
They have their own election coming up, I think, in March.
So they are looking at that. And interesting thing on a big ticket item, like a car or vehicle, you pay the sales tax of the area that you buy it from, but when you bring it back here, the difference, if there's an additional, you'll pay a little extra. I mean,
Okay, well, I guess I'll put it this way: anything that don't have to be tagged or titled, and of course I realize that also too. But anything that don't have to be tagged or titled, would be an option. Wichita's got those coming up where it has to not. We can't depend on that, I don't think. That's just another thing. I don't know how big the impact it, raising sales tax would have on that, but from 7 to 10, I mean, if you're going to spend $20,000, you're going to save some money.
Well, I worked 35 years in this community at one business, and I mean, you would consider what we sold to be a higher ticket item, and I never had anybody say, "Well, I'm going to, go to this city or this city because I can get it cheaper." They were okay with the taxes that we had here, and they definitely were okay with the service they were getting. So that being said, I'm hoping that the businesses that are here in Reno County, do the best service that they can and supply the best quality products that they can. And if it's a 1/4 raise in the sales tax, that those people aren't going to be, hopping on the highway and heading down the road. So that would just be my goal and my hope for this community.
good point. It still costs to drive to another city. What do you think about this? If the state would let us put this to a vote, what do you think about, what's your opinion on the fact that we could ask them if they wouldn't allow us about this food tax? I think that's positive, isn't it?
Yeah, I think the food tax, because like I was when we did the joint meeting, I told the city, and it applies to us, whatever we put out there for the voters, we need to make it perfectly clear what we plan on doing. And if we can put something in there about a food, exemption for food from the grocery store or from suppliers like that, then that would have to be a positive, I would think, for this community, for those that are in the middle to lower income, so that they're not getting hit with that at the time.
And the revenue shared is shared by all the communities, all the towns in the Reno County.
Yep.
By according to their percent of population. So each community would have a share.
There's kind of this spreadsheet kind of shows the percentages through 2025 of what the various cities get, and that's for a 1 cent countywide sales tax. So
That's a 1 cent.
if it was
so
half,
half
then you
of
just
that,
yeah.
roughly.
Well, I know at the meeting we recently attended for all counties, many counties and cities are feeling squeezed hard enough that they want to get property taxes down and they're looking at this as an avenue. I don't know that we have enough out of county money coming in to offset what we want to take down in the way of property tax, and how that'll, well, it's going to affect every citizen paying taxes differently, because different businesses, different amounts of sales tax we would pay versus how much property you own and how much a mill would make on the property you own. So there's no magic bullet that's going to help everybody. I pay enough property taxes, I darn sure like to see it go down. But we can't write any kind of law that restricts a future commission to adhere to what we're thinking about. And there's elections in between. So my first thought was that's a great deal. And let the people decide. That's what you're doing here, is letting the individual people decide. You're not putting a tax on. We're a long ways from that. But the longer I get into this and the more people talk to me, the more I think we can't guarantee anything on the future end. And I'm leaning more on as much as it's going to hurt me personally, letting it ride like it is. But we're going to have to vote for something, or vote to not do it. So that's just my thoughts, and that's where I'm going to shut off at. I'll vote when I listen to the rest of you. I'll vote the way I feel.
You know, this is one thing here, and I'm sitting up here, so this is an open meeting. So maybe it's time to hear from you folks that took time to come in here. And if you've got something to say, please limit it to less than 5 minutes and give your name and your address, please. And I think we owe our people an opportunity to speak.
I'm Kevin Evenson at 8010 East 30th Avenue. Our current sales tax is higher than 92% of the counties in the country. That's elite company. And now we're looking at increasing it to up to the 100%. So that's really high. I understand that our property taxes and our personal income taxes and our corporate income taxes are also among the highest in the country. So I think as a state, we need to have a conversation about dramatically reducing overall tax burden in Kansas to spur economic activity in Kansas, which is languishing. So I don't know the trade-offs between the property tax and the sales tax, but we are among the highest in the country in our current sales tax rate right now.
Kevin, what year was that? It's the 2020? 24?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. I want to mention one other thing that the state legislature did after we had already set a budget.
Ron, that was as
Is
of
they-
January 1st, 26.
Okay, thank you. Is they exempted, the state legislature exempted ATVs and motorcraft and golf carts from personal property tax. And what that did to Reno County was it lowered our assessed valuation totally in the county of $14.1 million. And so somewhere along the line, exempting those what I consider luxury, hobby, not a need, puts it back on your ad valorem. I know we're going to do everything we can to keep our expenses and budget down, but I just thought I'd throw that out here that makes a huge difference, because that's going to have to be made up, and right now, it's going to be made up with ad valorem taxes somehow. Go ahead, ma'am.
Okay, my name's Joyce Wilson. I live at 905 West 24th Avenue. And I did post it on Facebook about the meeting, and about the big talk was this survey that went out. I was the only one that filled out a survey of all the people that responded to my post on Facebook. Nobody else they didn't even know about it. And also, the survey consisted of 400 people, maybe a little bit more than 400, but right around 400 people. That's not very many compared to the population of Hutchinson. So really, this survey that went out did not address how Hutchinson people really felt. And when I filled out the survey, I felt that there were a lot of, to put it bluntly, trick questions that could have been interpreted a different way. And, then I found out later that, a lot of these questions were they were taken out of context as to how you answered the question. So I know there's just not a lot of growth going on right now in Hutchinson. I know there's expenses, a lot of expenses, but over the years, I have seen a lot of waste here in Hutchinson, an enormous amount of waste on really dumb projects. And we shouldn't have to pay for these frivolous little projects that are going on. That's where the monies can come from. If some of these dumb little projects were cut out and exuberant salaries, then just a lot of employees that we really don't need. And I know that's not just with the county, but an overall county and, city. But we're hurting. The people in Hutchinson are hurting financially. And we have an awful lot of, we're getting lopsided. We have an awful lot of people in Hutchinson that are on government assistance that don't pay taxes because they don't make enough money, or they don't make any money at all. So the tax burden is slowly getting on those that do work, that can, do own property. But we've just got to slow down this spending and work on getting this city built up. Hutchinson is a fabulous place to live, and we want people to come. But we've got to find a happy medium. Thank you.
Could I ask a question? You talked about some specific items. Could you name a few of those? Frivolous. That you consider frivolous?
There's murals being painted. Oh,
Sorry, we'll make you get up.
There's murals being painted. There's just things being built around this city that we really don't need. There's an outrageous raise and I know that's with the city, an outrageous raise that went out to this city, whatever he is. I don't know. I have no idea what this guy even does. And, it just seems like and now we have a city, we have a manager, a downtown manager, we have, I don't know the details, but a trip to Japan. A lot of people took a trip to Japan at taxpayers' expense. I have no idea why, It never was, I've never heard anything more than about that. But it just seems like there's just money going out.
You
That-
know, do you know who that was that went to Japan?
No. Well, I don't know the names, but I know it was a group of city people.
Well, that's my question and why I ask you to clarify. Yes, I'm sure we have some places where we need to cut too, but this particular board has nothing to say about what the city
Right.
does.
Yeah.
You may
and I
want
do
to address
realize
that with them.
I do realize that. But I'm just saying.
But I'm in agreement. There are places that need to be cut.
Yeah.
And I noticed you used city quite a bit, and I just wanted to make the point that we have no control over
Right.
what the city does.
And I do realize that.
Although, so, I mean, just so we're all on the same page here.
Right.
Thank you.
Well, and I wanted to bring up a fact that our budget is put out on our website monthly. So a person, if you see something that is in that budget and you question it, you can email any of us up here on the board or Randy Partington, and hopefully we can get an explanation why that's in our budget. If it's something that you don't think we need, we asked for some input when we were doing the budget, and we had some department heads that were making cuts as much as they could without laying anybody off. And, nobody wants to lose a job. But like you said, if it is something that we can get by with, 2 people instead of 3, or if you think it's something that we're doing that we need to improve on, just, let us know, and we'll look it up in our budget, because we get it every month. We go through the budget every month to see where our expenditures are, and if there's something that we have coming up that we need to spend money on. So anyway, I just wanted to put that out there.
I think one of the things that we can do, and that's what we've done some expenditures towards that way, and that's to increase the asset base so that it's shared more among more people than just a few. And you kind of have to admit some of the things we have been doing in the past hasn't worked. So we're trying some new things. Are they all going to work? We don't know. Some of them appear to be working pretty good right now with the Make My Move and Live Where You Live programs. Now, some might consider that frivolous, but you have to invest. There's 2 things you can't do. One, spend yourself out of debt and save yourself completely out. And so I think that's just to give you a little bit. And, oh, by the way, for those who are listening out there, that survey was also put on our website, and information is on the Reno County website. And it's there for people. We can't be frivolous and send out a postcard or a letter to every person in the county. So that's...
You make a good point, Ron. We've been accused of not being as transparent as we should. Most counties do not tape their meetings. Both our planning commission and this bunch, our meetings are taped. You could be sitting in your living room watching us right now. You can go back and you can bring up any meeting and check what was done. It's archived way back, years back. So in some of these meetings that we attend, that include other counties, they actually look at us and say we're probably more transparent than most. If it's out there, if you're not seeing it, then that's on you. We've made it available. And that's, since that came up, and you're talking about, well, you didn't see it, or it was available. If you don't check in once in a while and look at it, why, I don't know what to do. If we put it out there and you don't utilize it, I can't lead you. You can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. That's the long and the short of it. If we put it out there and you don't choose to not utilize it, well, then that's the way it is.
We happen to be pretty fortunate here in Reno County right now is the fact that we've got an actual paper that prints things and lets us know too.
Yes, we haven't had that
Either
for a
a
while.
printing or on the internet. And we haven't had that for a while. And so I congratulate the newspaper that's here today, taking notes.
And also, Randy's been doing with commissioners, if they're available, because I've actually got to do it, try to do some morning show interviews with some of the local radio stations so that, if you're not a newspaper reader or if you don't get on the website, at least you can get some information that way. So anyway, we're trying to be as transparent. Like I said, our emails are open to the public to read. So if you send me an email or somebody else does, and you can read my emails and check them out. So anyway.
Can we be more efficient? Yeah, we could probably be a little more efficient, but we're working at it. We're not, the work done by our employees is very good.
Yeah. Chris Link at 3510 North Lorraine.
Chris.
First of all, thank you guys for serving us, for being our representatives. I know it's not easy. A lot of disgruntled people, including myself. So thank you. Appreciate it. My family and I, we often pray for our leaders, including you guys. So know that you're in our prayers and that we are praying for your wisdom and your strength and for you guys to follow the Lord Jesus Christ. So first thing is, I think this nice lady's point was that it is our job to be involved as citizens, and we do a poor job of it. But the survey is not a good representative sample of Reno County. You guys didn't necessarily do anything wrong, but if only 400 people showed up and took the survey, that's not a good representative sample of the county. Second of all, if a family or business has a budget and there's a downturn in their business or they lose a job, they have to make adjustments. They don't get to go to the taxpayers and take their money, right? So we need to continue to look at spending. Nonprofits, things that God has not ordained the government to do. Education is not the government's job. That's family's job. Education, Cosmosphere. As much as I love the Cosmosphere and be able to go there free, that's not the government's job. So we need to be looking at these things from a biblical perspective and understanding what the government's job is. You guys are not our Savior. Jesus Christ is our Savior. And I don't think you guys think that personally, but government in general, you guys aren't here to save people. That is not the government's job. The government's job is to enforce justice. Okay? So I would ask that you guys consider these things as you look at your budget, as you look at taxing the people more. It is unrighteous to tax people into poverty. And it is unrighteous to spend money that's not yours. You're taking it from somebody. The government doesn't make money and spending it on things that a few are choosing, when that money should be in our pockets. If there's a good program out there, let the people rally to it and raise money for it and make it happen. If it's not a good cause, if people don't believe in it, let it die. But that's all I've got. Thank you.
Thank you for
Thank you, Chris.
that. Chris, our job description, if I remember correctly, according to the information I have, is to look after the health and welfare of the county citizens. And so sometimes there's a little difference of opinion on what is considered health and welfare.
Randy, I have a
Yep.
question before we move on.
All right.
Cosmosphere was mentioned. Do we fund those? The Cosmosphere?
Reno
didn't-
County doesn't know.
That's what I thought. Reno County does
City
not.
might, I think there's some sales tax. maybe.
City might,
Not
but
the county.
we do not fund them, and there's another large museum in town we do not fund, right? The Salt Museum.
Stratica, no, the
Stratica,
county gives
no.
money to the Historical Museum, which is part of the Historical Society that Stratica is also under, but the museum's where the county gives money to.
The only one is the Reno County Museum, and that's pretty common because, but if you've followed this for years, we haven't given them the amount of money that the citizens voted they could have. And that's a vote by the citizens, and they'd like to have what the citizens gave them, but we have held that back. So anyway, just to clarify a couple little things there.
Well, one more thing, he talked about schools, and I would love to not have to have 52 cents out of every dollar go to a school system. Unfortunately, the Supreme Court in this state has basically said what they have to spend in the schools. I know we just didn't pass a bond issue because the school, 308 wanted to do something and it didn't pass. But I do know, like I said, if you could have choice, school choice, and do homeschooling and not have to worry about, doing some of those things, that would be great. Unfortunately, the Supreme Court in this state decided that you didn't get that choice.
I need to make a correction on my address. It's 3506. I'm sorry.
All those numbers run together.
Jackson Swear, 210 West 20th. Just a couple of comments here today. First is that, the residents of Hutchinson will have an opportunity to vote on a 0.75% sales tax increase affecting the city of Hutchinson. That's coming up in March. That is separate and completely unrelated to what we're talking about here today. And I think that some of the previous speakers have raised some questions about that might be relevant within that context. But I would just, remind maybe those listening and also encourage you all to remember that the question at hand in front of you today is whether to ask the legislature if they would be so kind as to give you the permission to consider asking the people within Reno County if they would consider a sales tax increase. We're a very far stretch away from actually having a countywide sales tax, and also just might add that the city doesn't have to go through that whole rigmarole with the state legislature. Perhaps a fun little bit of a law that might also be of interest. But that's what we have in front of us today, and I think if I have any further comment, I might just note that I think that your option number 3 there that talks about potentially reducing property taxes and also contributing to economic development and infrastructure seems to me to be the best way to try to get the most broad base of an impact if you were to do a sales tax. But again, you're not even today making a decision about whether to put that on the ballot. And if you did, then people would have the opportunity to vote it down, and they might just vote it right down. But they would have the opportunity to do so, and you're just asking for permission to do that.
The countywide sales tax, it is completely different from Hutchinson's sales tax, right? Jackson, you clarified that.
Thank you, Ron. I think one might make the argument that a countywide sales tax would be better and more equitable for everyone. That you have more people paying in and more locations, and also some of the smaller towns and communities across the county would get a benefit from that. A lot of those folks come into Hutchinson and they spend their dollars in Hutchinson, but those sales tax dollars would not be going out to all those smaller towns in the citywide sales tax. Also, I would note that your sales tax proposal here is rather limited in scope for what you could spend the funds on, whereas the cities, as I understand it, they'll be able to roll that into their general fund and spend it on whatever they would so like.
And I think that was a very important thing we looked at to start with before we even considered it, is it needed to be designated in the best possible way. I was involved years ago in a sales tax in South Hutchinson, and it passed very high percentage. And, you know, they don't have a lot of businesses down there, but it's amazing how in just 5 or 10 years, how much money was accumulated, and it was directed into 2 items, and one of those was economic development. So,
What was the other item?
The other item was streets, upgrading streets.
One, and like he was, I'm sorry, I forgot your first name, but what he was saying about if you have a project that you like and you can get a few people together, a lot of times you're right, you can fund a project. But I also know, like when they did the Gowan Stadium renovation, my son, who wasn't even in high school at the time, we walked our neighborhood and handed out flyers talking about that expansion or remodeling and everything, and it passed. But again, it was a one-item deal, had a certain percentage of the sales tax that went to it, and the people in the community felt like it would be worthwhile, which to me, I think it is. But like you said, there are the things that when we were doing our budget, the museum was wanting to have a certain increase, and we said, no, we're going to either keep it where it was or less. And then my recommendation was to do things to maybe have fundraisers, because if you have an event, you can draw in people that think that museum is ready for upgrades, or I could help it, do what it needs to do. And anyway, and it is also a mandated thing for Reno County. If the county our size is mandated to have a museum. Doesn't say how big. I mean, it could be smaller than it is, but it is archived information for the county.
Randy, do you remember that the people voted for the museum up to how many mills? Was it 4 mills or?
No, I believe it was 2 mills.
2 mills?
2 mills.
And we don't spend anywhere near that.
Hi, I'm Katie Link at 3506 North Lorraine. I had a question. We were talking about whether or not to send this to a vote. After seeing the cost of the survey that went out, how much does it cost to put this to a vote to the county? I mean, just like ballpark.
It would be during a normal election, so there would be no additional cost.
Okay.
If the county did a special election, like say next year, and it was only for this, then I think last time we did a quote from the clerk for countywide, which is different than a city, but countywide it was, I think, around $30,000 or $40,000. But this would be one. The recommendation would be during a normal election, so it would be no additional cost for the election.
Okay, so that's something to definitely take into consideration. Please don't take another 40 grand from us, even for the voting. And then I have a question for you all, especially Mr. Bogner. You mentioned that people don't come out, they don't pay attention, they don't care, and it's true, and it is sad. And I think we've bred that into our society. I think we've become lazy, partially because we depend on the government to just take care of things, and we don't have to think. My question to you all is, what do we do about it as citizens? How can we encourage people to come about? I know you guys say you put on Facebook and all these things. I didn't know it existed. Most of the things I've heard about are word of mouth. How can we volunteer? How can the people take back and help you guys get this out there?
Well, I'll tell you one thing, and I mentioned it the other night at the meeting we both attended. Run for something. Look at all the empty spots in township elections, city elections, school board elections. Nobody runs. So how do they get there? The remaining group appoints them. Nobody gets to vote. Give them somebody to vote for. Catch the hell when you catch it, and you won't be thanked when you do something right, because that's what you're supposed to do. And that's where you're at with this kind of stuff. And, I'm just saying as blunt as it gets. When you pick somebody out of a hat and like in that canvas, and they were put up for the, nobody ran, so it was all write-ins. Candidate might have been the best candidate there. I don't know her. Probably was. Could have been. But pull out her name and she's not eligible for that district. But the law says she won the election. They find out she isn't able to run in that district, then the board appoints. Township, the other board members, when there's an open vacancy, they appoint. Same thing with these cities. Don't watch the ball games on a certain night. Read your book and come to a meeting and serve on a board. That's how you change it. I can't make anybody run. I always felt it was my duty to at least, I've served on several boards because I've been asked to by people, and I felt they wanted me to. There's others, as you well know, that don't think I belong here, and that's fine. That's how you change it. What's your kids saying? Are you taking an active role, or are you just sitting on the side griping? Hell, we all know every kid from little on watches what happens around him. That's how he learns. He, she. I say that in a legal manner. You can use either term in legal jargon. But guys, that's where it's at. You've got to create. You wouldn't believe when I was running how many people had never voted in their life, didn't even know how to even start. So, but I heard plenty of them raising hell with, what are you going to do about this and that? Nothing if you don't vote for me. Agree with me or not. But that's the problem. People don't care until after the fact. And then they have something to say. So, I'm into year 4. I'm done biting my tongue. I'll tell it like it is. And anyway.
I've been to 8 sessions that we've had with regarding to budget. And they were pretty well announced. Was getting on the website again.
And in the papers.
And in the paper. And you know how many have showed up in total for the last 8 years? You don't need one finger on a hand to count them. So, it's becoming knowledgeable, and asking questions is how you become knowledgeable. We're happy to. That's why y'all were invited to speak today, is to hear a few things. And
we're speaking to the choir. These are the guys that showed up.
And thank you. By the way, thank you.
So, but
given I can't speak for the whole state, but I can tell you Reno County is about number 15 on the least ad valorem taxes in the state of Kansas. I can tell you that. That was the last count I had. I think that was 24 out of 5.
So
pretty accurate, Randy, on that.
Yeah, that was a year or two ago, and we have our county sales tax is 1 cent. The rest is the state of Kansas, and then if you're in a city, the cities. So the counties is only 1 cent.
So let me ask those that are here, if you would. Knowing that this isn't going to be a tax, because we're going to have to vote on something. Walk away and do nothing, vote on something. those of you that were interested enough to come, we know how Jackson feels. But do you want the chance to vote? Because that's what we're doing today. We're not putting on a tax. Do you want the chance to vote? Or would you rather nothing happen? Or would you rather give yourself and your fellow citizens the opportunity to choose at a future date on the ballot? And what do you think? Do you want to choose, or do you just?
What you're voting on today, next year, you can do this thing.
We're asking, this vote here would be asking the state legislature to consider letting us have a vote to increase our sales tax by 0.5%.
For this year.
For this.
And if we
Just-
don't do anything, then next year we'd have to do the same thing again.
Your microphone's here.
Yeah, so next year we'd have, if we don't do anything or if we just let it go, and then if we decide we want to try next year, then we do it all over again, right?
That's correct.
So, and unfortunately, we have to ask the state legislature if they'll let us have a chance to raise the sales tax.
Excuse me. I would prefer us do nothing, because I don't want the majority to make the rules, because the majority's not always right. I don't think if if we have to go to the legislature to ask for a higher tax rate, we're already at the max. We're pretty high. So if you're asking my opinion today, which you are, and I thank you for that, I would say we do nothing. I don't want my fellow citizens to vote to steal money from others through taxation. There is some legitimate taxing for enforcing justice, some health and welfare stuff, but as much waste that I see, not just in the county, but throughout all government, I don't think it's right to demand from others what I'm not willing to do myself.
Well, we live in a democratic republic.
We live in a republic. You guys represent us. We are not a democracy. We are a republic. So there are times that we can.
That's why I said what I did.
Right. So the populace is not required to vote. You guys represented us. We voted for you guys. So I don't think it's necessary to put a vote to the whole county, because that's not how our government was set up. Our government was set up as representatives. We vote for our representatives, and then they select the laws, the statutes, the precepts that we go by. So, thank you.
Got a comment?
I too have to agree with him. I would rather you not vote on going to the state and asking. That's my vote today.
The reason we have to do that is because we do not have home rule as a county. There are 39 state statutes that control what the county does. Whereas a city has home rule. They don't have to.
I found a lot of things that I don't agree with since I've been sitting up here. That's, you find your hands are tied on a lot of things. It's amazing to me some of the things that we don't have a say in. And but it's a learning experience. I've learned a lot.
I really don't consider it stealing, but maybe you do, but I don't. I say we're providing services that the people want and need, or I prefer it need before the want, because it's just like, I know Don's sitting back there, our public works director, and he hopes that we don't get this snow this weekend. But there's going to be parts of the county because we can't hire people with CDLs that won't get their roads completely clean, and I will hear about it.
Oh, yeah.
But it's not because we don't have the vehicle power to do it. We can't hire people to be able to do that job.
Especially in some of the skilled jobs, we're losing those people to the private sector. So where you get the money to make sure you have the people to provide the services. That's the other side that we're getting caught in. Everybody's getting caught in, and it surprises me that we've kept the budget as close as we have in a lot of departments. Some departments, you elect the boss. Where is that sheet of paper? You elect several people that we provide the money for, but we don't hire them. They're on the exact same level as we are. We don't get to tell them what to do in their department. But state statute says we will fund them. I will say the voters of Reno County have done a very good job of putting some people in those positions that are very conservative, or we would be in big trouble. And that's something I learned too, that a large portion of the people you deal with in these department heads are not hired by administration or not really under us. They're our equals, and they either cooperate with us or they don't. And the citizens of Reno County have done a good job of hiring some good people that have the right education, job skills to do the job, and they really fiscally conservative. So, there.
What's an example of that?
District attorney.
District attorney, registered deeds, sheriff.
Those are all paid by the county. That's what you're saying.
Yeah, county clerk.
County clerk, treasurer.
Yeah,
Treasurer
yeah.
and registered deeds.
Yeah.
This is available on our website, handed to us the first day we walked on the job.
What is your website?
RenoCountyKS.gov.
Okay. I thought that's what it was.
And right up here at the top, the single block, Reno County citizens, you're doing the hiring. And then all these guys are equal, including us, the whole next line. Now, who finances it? Who's got to? We've got to figure the budget, but you end up financing it. And that's where we're at, folks. I knew I voted for those people, but I didn't realize the money end. And
Well, I know when we approved some construction bids, and we changed, we came up with a change. Instead of just doing they put a bid in and we approve it, and they have all this extra money that they can build up to. We've changed that now. So now we have our department head in facilities is actually overseeing the bid process and the construction process. And if we can cut a corner and save $1,000 or $2,000, he's got the permission to do that. Instead of saying, well, yeah, it's in the bid, just go ahead and do it. So we've changed that process. So that's another thing that for the people in the Reno County, which we're trying to make it where you're not getting stuck with a fancy building that has all the bells and whistles that it doesn't need just because the architect wants to put them in. If it's not a need in that building, it's not going to be in that building. So that is something that I was very proud to be a part of. And we have some really good facilities that are going to be put together that are going to be useful for the county and hopefully last for another 50 years and not have all the extra bells and whistles. So that's something that we have done.
Well, I think we've studied this quite a bit, and I appreciate your input, even if we happen to vote different. But appreciate your input because that's all part of the knowledge. Every one of us here has a pretty close relationship and has asked for wisdom on the information we have. So,
Yeah. I tell the story our pastor prays for us every service. And I used to sit out there and think, yeah, some of the stuff they do, those guys, somebody needs to pray for them. Well, I'll tell you right now, I need the prayers. Jump on the other side of the fence and you get squeezed, and you learn pretty fast that we do need the prayers. But having said that, we're getting off in the weeds.
yep, but it's something that we've looked at and studied and tried to decide what's in the best interest of the citizens of Reno County. And so at this point, Randy, do you have anything more?
Not on this. Oh, basically, if you're going to make a motion to approve any of these, I would recommend make a motion to approve whatever option, and then authorize the chair to sign a letter stating the commission's approved request to go to the Kansas legislature. So that would be my recommendation if you're going to move this forward, to make a motion like that, to not only choose one of those, but also authorize the chair to sign a letter going to the Kansas legislature.
Well, Randy, can we, what about the food exemption? You think that's can we put that in there even though we don't have a say over that because of?
If you're interested in that, I think you could put something in the letter stating that the county commission would be interested in having a food exemption if allowed by state law.
Okay. Commissioner Ron, are you still there?
Yeah, I'm still here. Just been listening.
Okay.
I'm not sure about this, especially this year. City's going to jump in. I at this point in time would probably prefer to put it off, do it later. But there is some interesting options. If we remove the food tax, it is what's that going to cause us not get that income? Are we replacing one income with another, and we're not going to get reductions in what we're saying? I'm a little concerned about that. And also, we don't know for sure if we can take the food tax off, do we?
This is to send it to ask the state legislature to consider this. It's not
Right.
putting a tax into force. It's asking the state legislature consider allowing the citizens of Reno County to vote on it.
And Commissioner Vincent, you're correct. We don't know if the state would even allow on the food exemption. That food tax exemption may not even be possible. It's just put on here as an option for you guys to consider if that was something you wanted to at least bring to the legislature's attention.
Is that going to be on the ballot also for the people to vote on?
No. If there's state law that allows it, you guys would, your
If the state
resolution would probably
if the
state that
state
it
approves
would.
that, then no, it'll be part of it, but it will,
It won't be asking the voters yes or no on
Yeah.
that portion.
no.
Well, to keep this moving forward, I would entertain a motion not to do anything at this time.
Okay, we have a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded not to go to the state and ask them to let Reno County citizens vote on a 0.5% sales tax. And if I understand the motion correctly, a vote yes would mean that we would not send it to the state legislature, and a vote no would be against that, to send it to the state legislature.
A vote no would just kill the motion, or
Yeah.
it wouldn't be saying that you are
Right.
sending it to the legislature. That would take another motion.
Okay. Everybody understand that?
So if we're voting.
Yes.
Yes.
If we're voting yes on the
Then we're
motion,
killing it.
it's not to not send it to the state legislature.
Yeah, it's killing it.
Till next, whenever.
I'm ready. Abigail, would you call a roll call, please?
Commissioner Vincent,
Yes.
Commissioner Winger,
Yes.
Commissioner Bogner,
Yes.
Commissioner Hurst.
No. Motion carries 3-1. All right, well, thank you, everybody, for coming and partaking and giving us your information. And check out the website and come again. All right?